When a thrill-seeking couple ventures into its eerie depths, they return marked by blood-red scratches and inexplicable madness. Unravel a web of betrayal, greed, and a cunning conspiracy in this spine-tingling tale of murder and deception. Tune in to uncover the shocking truth behind the cursed village. In the rugged mountains of Vietnam's northwest, there once stood a small village. Due to its remote location and difficult access, the villagers gradually abandoned it, leaving behind an empty, desolate place now known as Black Muong Village, meaning a sealed, forsaken village. Nestled deep in the mountains, Black Muong Village is a haunting sight, with dilapidated, weathered houses standing like ghostly sentinels, resembling a city of the dead. A group of adventurers, including a married couple, ventured to Black Muong Village to explore its mysteries. That night, several members of the group fell into a trance-like state, some seemingly driven mad. By morning, one person awoke with blood-red scratches on their neck. The person with the scratches was the husband, Hong Kwang, name changed for privacy. He wailed in despair, muttering incoherent words of terror, "Don't come for me. I don't want to die." Terrified, the group fled Black Muong Village. Not long after, Hong Kwang passed away. Strangely, just days later, his wife, Quian name changed, who had appeared unharmed, also died mysteriously at home, with identical blood-red scratches on her neck. The bizarre nature of these events prompted the local police to investigate. However, their initial inquiries uncovered perplexing inconsistencies and no clear leads, forcing them to call for assistance from the provincial police. Enter Officer Kwang, who was assigned to the case under these eerie circumstances. The incident took place in 2013, when Kwang had been working for the provincial police for 4 years. The crime scene was a small town, roughly 100 kilometers from Black Muong Village, a 2.5-hour drive. The family involved was well known locally. Quian's father was one of the first to amass wealth after Vietnam's economic reforms. Before his death, he had arranged for a son-in-law, Hong Kwang, to marry into the family and live with them. This was the same Hong Kwang who died mysteriously. Quian's father's greatest regret was not having a son to inherit his wealth, so he chose Hong Kwang to marry into the family. His only condition was that their children bear the Tern surname, but he treated Hong Kwang well. Quian, though a woman, had no interest in shopping or city life. Her passion was adventure. She controlled the family's finances and went wherever she pleased, despite objections from others. Driven by curiosity, and against her family's protests, Quian and her husband ventured to Black Muong Village. The result was catastrophic. After returning, Hong Kwang suffered from persistent high fevers and never regained clarity of mind. Doctors were summoned but could find no cause, and even a shaman's rituals to dispel evil spirits proved futile. A few days later, Hong Kwang died. Believing he had died from a curse, local customs dictated a simple funeral for Hong Kwang. However, the subsequent exorcism rituals dragged on for days. After her husband's death, Quian was overwhelmed with fear and fell into a state of mental collapse. Her father-in-law, Mr. Quian name changed, seeing her distress and considering her responsibility to care for her 2 young children, did not blame her and only hoped she would look after them well. But just days later, another horrifying event unfolded. Quian, restless and wealthy, often hired help to care for her children. In the small town, finding a good housekeeper was easy, with salaries ranging from 3 to 5 million VN per month. Miss Tai, a relative of Quian, had raised 2 children of her own and was experienced. Needing money for her children's education, she was hired by Quian as a full-time housekeeper. According to Miss Tai, she lived at her own home and came to Quian's house each morning to do chores and care for the children. On the morning of the incident, as usual, she arrived at Quian's house, used her key to enter, and went to the first-floor kitchen to prepare breakfast. After finishing, she went upstairs to the second floor to call Quian for breakfast, but there was no response, only the sound of Quian's baby, Turn Bao, crying. Given Hong Kwang's recent death by curse, Miss Tai was too frightened to check alone and called a neighbor, saying, for help. Sang, a tall and sturdy young man, sensed something was wrong and immediately pried open the bedroom door. The scene inside was horrifying. Turn Bao was crying hysterically in his crib, while Quian lay dead on the bed, her face pale and contorted in terror. Quian's expression was ghastly, as if she had seen something terrifying. Her mouth was agape, her eyes bulging, and her neck bore blood-red scratches, identical to those on Hong Kwang when he died. Sang was the first to regain composure and called Quian's father-in-law, Mr. Kwai. When Mr. Kwai arrived, he too was stunned by the gruesome scene. In his grief, Mr. Kwai quickly summoned a shaman to perform an exorcism, fearing the evil spirit might harm him or his two grandchildren. The exorcism lasted an entire day, and before Quian could be laid to rest, the police arrived. According to local tradition, if the people don't report, the authorities don't pursue, so Hong Kwang's death initially went unnoticed by the police. But when such a shocking event shook the small town, rumors spread quickly, and someone alerted the authorities. Upon seeing Quian's body, Officer Kwang immediately noticed something suspicious. While Quian appeared to have died of fright, there was a faint strangulation mark on her neck. Combined with her bulging eyes and open mouth, Kwang deduced that the preliminary cause of death was asphyxiation. In other words, Quian was likely murdered. Unfortunately, the exorcism rituals had completely destroyed the crime scene, leaving no valuable evidence. The small town lacked a professional forensic team, so the provincial police were called in. Quian's home was a 3-story, self-built villa. The first floor was for entertaining and dining, the second floor housed Quian's and her children's bedrooms, and the third floor contained Hong Kwang's room and a storage area. According to Mr. Kwai, Quian had complained that Hong Kwang's loud snoring disturbed her, so the couple always slept separately. After Hong Kwang's death, the third floor was sealed off, and no one entered. Quian's bedroom door was ajar, but the lock was broken. Upon entering, a pungent smell of incense filled the air. The room was a shocking sight. Ash from incense covered the floor. Yellow ritual paper was plastered everywhere, and a menacing statue of a deity stood in the corner. The room was thick with smoke, resembling a ritual site. The crime scene was so thoroughly compromised that the police had little hope of finding clues. But unexpectedly, Kwang noticed something unusual in Quian's bedroom. The window in her room was different from the others. While other rooms had sliding windows that could only open a small gap, too narrow for an adult to pass through, a common anti-theft design in villas, Quian's window was a horizontal sliding type, large enough for an adult to climb through easily. Could the killer have entered through the window? How long has this house been built? Kwang asked. About 7 or 8 years, Mr. Kwai replied. This window is different from the others. Was it renovated later? Mr. Kwai nodded. Yes, Quian said she felt stuffy in the room and wanted to stick her head out for fresh air, so she had it changed to this type. How long ago was it changed? About 2.5 years. Kwang paused, then asked, Mr. Kwai, when Quian's body was found, was the window open? Mr. Kwai hesitated. Well, I was so panicked at the time, I didn't pay much attention to that. The police then questioned Miss Tai and Sang, the two who discovered the body. Sang, a man in his 20s, unmarried, tall and strong, had little education and worked as a bricklayer when jobs were available, otherwise staying home. According to Sang, when Miss Tai called him to the villa, he saw no one else. The bedroom window was closed and locked. After finding the body, he stayed at the scene and told Miss Tai to call Mr. Kwai. When Mr. Kwai arrived, Sang opened the window to speak with him from the yard, confirming that the window was locked at the time. Miss Tai and Sang's accounts aligned. The bedroom door and window were both locked. This meant that when Quian died, the bedroom was a perfect locked room. Could Quian truly have died from a curse? The provincial police's autopsy report revealed that Quian died approximately 48 hours before discovery, around dawn on the day Miss Tai and Sang found her. Miss Tai confirmed this, as she had dined with Quian the previous evening. The cause of death was asphyxiation due to her neck being tightly constricted by an unknown object. The faint blood marks on her neck could have been caused by a sharp object, but they were too faint to identify the weapon. No fingerprints of the killer were found on the body, suggesting the perpetrator was cautious, possibly wearing gloves and striking while Quian slept. A colleague raised a question: suppose someone with a key to Quian's room entered through the window at night, killed her, then locked the window and door. That would create a locked room. But locking from the inside and outside is completely different. Anyone could tell the difference. That's the key, Kwang emphasized. I checked, and Sang broke the lock to enter the room, so we can't tell if it was locked from the inside or outside. If Sang hadn't broken the lock, someone could have tried the key and known immediately exactly. The key was likely only in Quian's possession. The killer knew this and took her key to lock the door, forcing others to break it to enter. Indeed, when the body was examined, Quian's key was missing. A cold glint flashed in Kwang's eyes. The killer must be someone very familiar with Quian. Interrogation room. Miss Tai, Quian's housekeeper, sat in the room. As Kwang entered, she jumped up as if stung, trembling. Officer, why did you call me here? Kwang smiled. Miss Tai, I just have a few questions. Answer truthfully, and you will be fine. Ask away. I'll tell the truth. How long have you been working as a housekeeper for Quian's family? Over 6 months. So, since the baby was born, you've been there, right? Yes. Quian was restless and loved to travel. Hong Kwang was clumsy, so I've been taking care of Turn Bao since he was born. But I have 2 kids at home, so I only work during the day and go home at night. How was your relationship with Quian? We're cousins. She's my younger cousin. How close were you? Well, it was okay. Miss Tai hesitated. Kwang's tone sharpened. Okay. Good or bad? Tell the truth. Miss Tai paled, stammering. It wasn't great before. We got closer later. Quian, no, not just her. Her whole family was a bit strange, so they weren't close with relatives. I was closer to them than most. Strange how? Explain clearly. Miss Tai gathered her thoughts and began recounting Quian's family history. Quian's father, Turn Quan name changed, was frail and sickly from childhood, likely due to genetics. In those days, child mortality was high, and his family didn't expect him to survive, raising him minimally with rice and vegetables. Yet Turn Quan defied the odds and grew up despite his ailments. Before age 20, Turn Quan was gaunt, sickly, and overlooked. In the early 1980s, his life took a turn. He married a woman with a leg disability. At the time, someone like him could only marry someone in similar circumstances. Fortunately, she was attractive and kind, bringing him unprecedented happiness. After marriage, they had a daughter, but she was frail like her parents and died young. Determined to earn money before having more children, Turn Quan built a cart, and with his disabled wife, they traveled dozens of kilometers to the town to sell food. At night, unable to afford lodging, they slept on the streets. 2 years later, they saved over 10 million VN. In that era, 10 million VN was a fortune. Turn Quan, never arrogant, used the money to upgrade their cart into a proper eatery in town. The business snowballed, and within a few years, he opened several branches, becoming a wealthy and admired figure. Quian was the child they decided to have after achieving wealth. By then, Turn Quan's wife was over 30 and frail, nearly dying during Quian's birth. Fortunately, their wealth allowed them to spend heavily to save both mother and child. Knowing Quian was their last and only surviving child, they spoiled her immensely, fostering her selfish nature. According to Miss Tai, Quian was never kind to relatives. Turn Quan also distanced himself from relatives who had looked down on him in his youth and offered no help. But when he became rich, he returned to his hometown and built a grand villa, as if proclaiming, "My family is wealthy." Some envious relatives came to borrow money, but he refused, tarnishing their reputation among kin. When Quian was in 12th grade, her mother passed away, causing her to fail her university entrance exams. Turn Quan offered to pay for her education, but she refused. Instead, she rebelled, stealing over 10 million VN to go on an adventure, disappearing for months and leaving Turn Quan furious but helpless. When Quian returned after spending all the money, Turn Quan sold his eateries, took hundreds of millions VN, and returned to the countryside with his daughter. He believed that with such a disobedient daughter, earning more money was pointless. Turn Quan, always frail, survived into his 50s with the help of medicine. Feeling his strength waning, he wanted to secure his daughter's marriage before dying. Regretting not having a son, he chose a son-in-law to marry into the family, stipulating that their children must bear the Turn surname. Hong Kwang, tall, handsome, and honest, caught Turn Quan's eye. Before passing away, Turn Quan managed to organize Quian's wedding, fulfilling his wish, and died soon after, never seeing his grandchildren. However, his daughter and son-in-law honored his wish, naming their first child Turn Jia. Name changed. 3 years later, their second child, Turn Bao, whom Miss Tai cared for, was born. Miss Tai emphasized that, for years, almost no relatives were close to Quian's family except her. When Quian gave birth to Jia, she had no milk, while Miss Tai, having just had her second child, had plenty and occasionally breastfed Jia, earning Quian's gratitude. Miss Tai added that when Turn Bao was born, Quian immediately hired her to care for him at a high salary of 6 million VN, as Miss Tai needed money for her children's education. Their relationship wasn't exactly warm but mutually beneficial. After Miss Tai finished, Kwang asked, "How did Quian treat Hong Kwang's family?" "I heard she built a house for Mr. Kwai and funded Keen, Hong Kwang's younger brother, through university. Their relationship must be good." "Good? Hardly." Miss Tai scoffed. "That house cost less than 20 million Vietnamese dongs, yet she bragged about it constantly in front of Mr. Kwai. His wife died early, and Quian often mocked him for being a widower, ignoring that her own mother died young too. Yes, she funded Keen's studies, but every time she gave money, she complained endlessly. Even I got annoyed listening to her. Luckily, Mr. Kwai is kind-hearted. Despite Quian's daily harsh words, he still faithfully took Jia to kindergarten." "And Hong Kwang? How did Quian treat him?" Miss Tai sighed. "Kwang was a good man, tall, decent-looking, but he was too timid, less respected in the house than me, a housekeeper. He was practically a free driver. Quian scolded him daily. Being alive in son-in-law is pitiful. No matter how broke I get, I'd never let my sons marry into a rich family." Seeing Miss Tai ramble, Kwang cut her off and told her to rest in the next room. The interrogation room fell silent. A forensic investigator watching Miss Tai leave suddenly said, "Kwang, are you suspecting?" Kwang nodded. "Yes, Mr. Quian Keen have strong motives. First, Quian repeatedly humiliated them, even driving Keen to leave for work in the city out of anger. Second, Hong Kwang's death was directly tied to Quian. If she hadn't insisted on going to Black Muong village, he wouldn't have died. Third, the children bearing the Turn surname is a great shame in rural areas. If Quian died, the children could take the Hong surname. Fourth, and most importantly, if Quian died, her hundreds of millions in assets would go to her children, effectively falling into Mr. Quian Keen's hands. They're the prime suspects." "Exactly, that explains the locked room." Mr. Quian Keen knew Quian's habits well and had a key to the gate. One or both could have sneaked in at night, killed Quian, locked the door, and left, creating a perfect fake crime scene. "Precisely, it's highly likely. but they probably didn't enter through the gate, but the window. Kwang outlined the possible sequence of events that night. The weather was hot, and Kwon left her window open while sleeping. One or both of Mr. Kwai and Keen climbed in through the window, strangled Kwon, took her key, locked the bedroom door from the outside, and left through the main gate. Since they had a gate key, entering and exiting was easy, making the bedroom a locked room. The only flaw was that the door was locked from the outside, not the inside, but Sang's breaking of the lock concealed this. Even if Sang hadn't been there, Miss Tai would have called Mr. Kwai, who could have broken the door, achieving the same effect. However, this was only a hypothesis, not yet the truth. Having identified suspects and motives, the next step was to verify their alibis, whether Mr. Kwai and Keen were elsewhere when Kwon was killed. If not, they would remain prime suspects. Kwon said firmly, "I'm going to Black Muong Village." To Black Muong Village, yes. If Kwon was murdered, Hong Kwang's death is also suspicious. I want to check for anything unusual there. And one more thing, I need your help. What is it? Nothing major. I want you to examine Hong Kwang's body. The forensic investigator's face darkened. Locally, Hong Kwang was believed to have died from a curse, and his body had been sealed with exorcism rituals. Digging it up for an autopsy would face significant resistance. If Hong Kwang's family objected, the police might have to back down to avoid conflict. Knowing the difficulty, Kwang quickly added, "If it's not feasible, forget it." But the forensic investigator replied, "I'll try. If they agree, great. If not, we'll focus on Kwon's case for now." Kwang finished. After discussion, the team was tasked with investigating Mr. Kwai and Keen, while Kwang drove over 100 kilometers to Black Muong Village. Unfortunately, the trip yielded no results, and Black Muong Village was ruled out as a factor. Meanwhile, the investigation revealed that both Mr. Kwai and Keen had airtight alibis. On the night Kwon died, Mr. Kwai was at the hospital with his grandson Juia Wee, confirmed by doctors and nurses. Keen was at a card game all night, verified by the shop owner and other players. Their perfect alibis eliminated them as suspects. The trail went cold. If it wasn't them, who was it? A hired killer? The team wondered. This was possible, but without evidence, the investigation hit a dead end. Kwang suddenly recalled something and asked, "What about Hong Kwang's body? Can it be examined?" "I spoke with the family, but they strongly opposed it." This response effectively closed the possibility of an autopsy. On the surface, Hong Kwang's death wasn't directly linked to Kwon's murder. Without the family's consent, the police couldn't exhume the body. The room fell silent, and the investigation stalled. Kwon, ignoring warnings, went to Black Muong Village with Hong Kwang. They joined an exploration group and spent the night in the village. In the middle of the night, Hong Kwang went mad, with scratches appearing on his neck. After returning home, Hong Kwang died from a curse. Days later, Kwon died mysteriously in a locked room from asphyxiation. Connecting the events, Kwang realized a bizarre possibility. "I heard Hong Kwang's funeral was very simple." How simple? Just a basic exorcism and burial, completed in 2 days. Local customs usually require keeping the body for at least 5 days and holding a feast. Did you see Hong Kwang's body? No, because he died from a curse. The body was covered in black cloth. I believe only family saw it. At this, the team's eyes widened. "Are you saying you suspect Hong Kwang isn't dead?" Kwang nodded firmly. "Exactly, that's my suspicion. How could Hong Kwang, supposedly dead for a week, still be alive?" Kwang explained. First, when Hong Kwang died, Kwon was in a state of panic and mental instability, so she may not have been by his side. The only witnesses to Hong Kwang's death were Mr. Kwai and Keen. Second, the funeral was overly simplistic, with the body covered in black cloth. While the excuse was a curse, it was a convenient way to conceal the truth from others. Third, yesterday I proposed examining Hong Kwang's body, but the family refused. They might be hiding that the body isn't Hong Kwang's or that there's no one in the coffin at all. So, the person who killed Quian was Hong Kwang. Exactly. Kwang nodded firmly. Hong Kwang may not be dead, but in hiding. He could have sneaked into the room through the window, killed Quian, and created the locked room. Compared to Mr. Quian Keen, he could do this more easily. At Black Muong village, he might have deliberately caused a disturbance, faked his death to deflect suspicion from himself, and waited for the opportunity to strike. After the deed, he only needed to avoid returning to the town, change his identity, and live freely. With the money at his disposal, he could live comfortably anywhere. But the problem is, Kwang sighed, the best way to confirm this is to examine Hong Kwang's body. But if the family doesn't agree, it's nearly impossible. For superstitious people, reasoning alone is rarely persuasive. If Hong Kwang faked his death, the family would be even less likely to allow the body to be exhumed. The forensic investigator thought for a moment, and said, I have an idea. It may not guarantee an autopsy, but it could confirm whether the body in the coffin is Hong Kwang's. What's the plan? According to local customs, a deceased couple is buried together. If Quian is to be buried, Hong Kwang's grave will surely be opened for the joint burial. At that time, we can request to inspect the coffin. If Hong Kwang's family refuses, it strongly suggests the body isn't his. Kwang's eyes lit up. Let's do it. To avoid arousing suspicion from Mr. Kwai's family, Kwang pretended to return to the provincial office, while the local police informed Mr. Kwai that the investigation was closed. Quian's funeral was then allowed to proceed. 2 days later, Kwang received word that Quian's funeral had concluded, and she was to be jointly buried with Hong Kwang that morning. Quian's funeral, like Hong Kwang's, lasted only 2 days and was notably simple. At the hillside cemetery, Kwang saw only about a dozen people from Mr. Kwai's family, including Mr. Kwai and Keen, busy with preparations. From Quian's side, only Miss Tai attended, underscoring how little her relatives cared for her. Did they agree to open the coffin? Surprisingly, Mr. Kwai agreed. However, they only permitted a brief look inside, not a full autopsy. Mr. Kwai's family explained that the curse on Hong Kwang had been sealed by the shaman. If the body was removed for an autopsy, the curse could spread to others in the family. Kwang understood that, legally, the police could examine a body with an unclear cause of death and require family presence. But laws are rigid, and people are not. Many superstitious families resist autopsies, sometimes violently, a common issue. The police had to be understanding, as their goal was only to verify if the body was Hong Kwang's, making an autopsy less critical. As the grave was dug up, tension grew. After all, the scene about to unfold could reveal the truth of a major case. How could it not be nerve-wracking? An hour later, the grave was fully excavated, revealing Hong Kwang's coffin, a high-quality wooden one, made of solid, durable, corrosion-resistant wood, typically used for coffins but expensive. Hong Kwang's family had money, and though the funeral was simple, the coffin was the best available. Officers, must you really look? Mr. Kwai's face darkened. In his conservative mindset, opening a coffin was a bad omen, as if inviting death upon himself. Mr. Kwai, we're very sorry, but we must open the coffin for a quick look, Kwang said. Mr. Kwai's expression was grim as he conferred with his relatives. After a while, an elderly man over 70 nodded. Officers, we're agreeing out of respect for you. If the cursed person is Hong Kwang and something goes wrong, our home family will bear it. We hope this is the only time, no more after this. The officers quickly smiled appeasingly. Yes, you're right, just this once. Kwang stood aside, uncomfortable but helpless. A strong man jumped into the pit, pried the nails from the coffin lid, and, with effort, lifted one end. A pale face appeared. Kwang rushed forward to observe. Though much thinner than in the photos provided, it was unmistakably Hong Kwang. The body was covered in a shroud, with the face and neck coated in a white powder likely lime and salt, used to slow decomposition in hot weather, obscuring facial details and any scratches on the neck. "Are you done looking? Close the coffin." The man who opened it snorted, clearly displeased with the police inspection and fearful of the curse spreading to him. "Sorry, close it up." The man didn't hesitate, sealing the coffin shut. The police did not stay for Quian's joint burial, leaving the cemetery in silence, their mood heavy. The body in the coffin was indeed Hong Kwang, meaning Kwang's theory was completely wrong. Who killed Quian? Back at the station, everyone was dejected. No one had filed a complaint, yet out of duty, the police investigated Quian's strange death, only to face resentment from Mr. Kwai's family and indifference from Quian's relatives. Was their effort worth it? Moreover, the investigation was at a dead end. Suspicions about Mr. Quian Keen had been ruled out, so who was the killer? But Kwang didn't give up. If it's not Mr. Kwai's family, there's only one possibility left. Who? Basho? Basho? Who's Basho? The unfamiliar name from Kwang's mouth left everyone puzzled. Basho is right here. As if seeing through everything, Kwang recounted the details. On his first day in town, Kwang had considered if both Hong Kwang and Quian were dead, could the killer be their enemy? Kwang reported to his superiors, and the provincial police immediately contacted the local precinct chief, arranging for a discreet investigation that uncovered a new lead. It turned out that before her marriage, Quian had a boyfriend named Basho, name changed, who lived in a nearby town. They were very close, often traveling together. Later, under her father's pressure, Quian married Hong Kwang. Basho, furious, repeatedly caused trouble at Quian's house but was beaten and driven off by Hong Kwang, sparking a feud between the two men. Afterward, Basho got a new girlfriend and stopped appearing at Quian's house. But strangely, just before Quian and Hong Kwang went to Black Muong village, Basho was there too. Moreover, his girlfriend didn't know he had gone to Black Muong village. Upon receiving this information, Kwang investigated at Black Muong village. He saw the stream rumored to run with blood, but when he tasted it, the water was clean. If no one had tampered with it, the water couldn't have appeared bloody. Looking at the ancient well, Kwang considered a possibility. Could the stream's water have been doctored to force the exploration group to drink from the well? The camping trip lasted 3 days, and their water supply would likely run low. If the stream looked bloody, they would turn to the well. Kwang immediately reported to his superiors, requesting a test of the well water. The results revealed a small amount of a hallucinogenic substance. This substance affects the central nervous system, causing sensory and emotional distortions, disorientation in time and space, hallucinations, delusions, and even mental disorders. Though the concentration in the well was low at the time of the incident, it was sufficient to cause hallucinations. Thus, Hong Kwang's frenzied state was not fake, it was real. The most likely person to have spiked the well was Basho, who arrived at Black Muong village a day earlier. The police promptly arrested Basho, uncovering a crucial clue. In his home was a set of keys to Quian's house, including her bedroom key, which even Hong Kwang didn't have. This strengthened suspicions that Basho was the killer. Moreover, on the night Quian died, he had no alibi. Under interrogation pressure, Basho admitted he was at Quian's house that night but insisted he didn't kill her. All signs pointed to Basho as the killer, though it remained unclear how he killed Hong Kwang or why a dispute with Quian led to her murder. The team marveled, so that's it, Basho is the killer. Could it be that Basho and Quian rekindled their romance, killed Hong Kwang together, but then had a falling out, leading Basho to kill Quian too? Kwang nodded. It's possible, but we need to question Basho further. Minutes later, a large-scale interrogation began, with Kwang leading, the precinct chief overseeing, and 2 officers taking notes. Basho looked up at everyone, then lowered system. The mystery of Black Muong village, a tale of murder and a conspiracy to seize wealth in the shadows of the Northwest continued. Looked down in fear, refusing to speak no matter what was asked. Kwang, growing frustrated, said sternly, "Basho, resisting is pointless. You had keys to Kwayan's house, you were there the night she died, and you were at Black Muong village the day before Hong Kwang went mad. All evidence points to you. Even if you stay silent, we have enough to conclude you're the killer." Basho broke down in tears, raising his cupped hands and sobbing. "Officers, I swear I didn't kill anyone." Kwang replied coldly, "Swearing is useless. The only way forward is to confess the full details of the crime." Basho sighed deeply and finally recounted the entire story. Basho and Kwayan were high school classmates with compatible personalities and a shared love for adventure, quickly becoming a couple. In their final year, Kwayan failed her university entrance exam. Encouraged by Basho, she stole over 10 million VN, and they traveled together for months, living like carefree spirits. Later, Basho went to the city for university, contacting Kwayan less frequently, but they still went on adventures together when free. Their long-distance relationship deepened their bond. After graduating, Basho visited Kwayan to propose marriage, but her father disapproved. To him, Basho was short, not robust, and couldn't improve the family's frail genetics. Moreover, as an only child, Basho's family would never allow him to marry into Kwayan's family. Determined to marry Kwayan, Basho started working out to build muscle and tried persuading his parents to allow him to live with her family. But his parents were furious, forcing him to give up. Months later, he received devastating news Kwayan had married Hong Kwang. Basho went to Kwayan's house to cause trouble but felt intimidated, as Hong Kwang was tall, strong, good-looking, and willing to marry into the family, outshining Basho in every way. Basho gave up and returned home in tears. A year later, after Kwayan gave birth, she sought out Basho, saying Hong Kwang was dull and uninteresting, and she only felt happy with Basho. She added that if her father hadn't forced her to marry Hong Kwang, she would have chosen Basho. Basho, still deeply in love, softened at her tears, and they rekindled their relationship. Initially, Basho felt guilty, but over time, he grew comfortable. Kwayan was wealthy, often giving him a few million VN, satisfying both emotionally and materially. Why wouldn't he continue? After reconnecting with Basho, Kwayan lost all interest in Hong Kwang. To facilitate their meetings, she moved Hong Kwang to the third floor, gave Basho keys to her house, and when renovating, changed her bedroom window to a horizontal sliding type so Basho could sneak in at night for secret thrills. At this point, Kwang and the team realized the window was changed to enable Kwayan's affair. Their clandestine relationship continued, both enjoying it immensely. Basho had a new girlfriend arranged by his family, from a well-off household, and planned to marry her in a few years, with no intention of marrying Kwayan. Kwayan, accustomed to controlling Hong Kwang's household, had no plans to divorce and marry Basho, knowing his strict parents would make her life unhappy even with her wealth. Besides secret nighttime rendezvous, they often went on adventures together until Kwayan's second pregnancy forced a pause. After giving birth, restless, she invited Basho on trips, but he urged her to rest, and she reluctantly agreed. Months ago, when rumors of Black Muong village spread in the northwest, Basho knew Kwayan wouldn't stay put. Sure enough, a day before Kwayan and Hong Kwang went to Black Muong village, Basho received a message from her saying she was there alone and wanted him to join her. Excited yet worried, Basho rushed to Black Muong village, but found no one. Puzzled, he texted and called, but her phone was off. He stayed overnight, planning to leave if she didn't show. To his surprise, Kwayan arrived the next day but with Hong Kwang. In that situation, Basho quietly left, figuring there would be other chances to meet Kwayan privately, avoiding a confrontation with the imposing Hong Kwang. Days later, he heard Kwayan and Hong Kwang had been cursed. Hong Kwang's condition was severe, nearly fatal. Soon after, Hong Kwang died and was buried. Concerned for Quian, Basho sneaked into her house to check on her, only to be scolded as heartless for not coming sooner. Basho, confused, asked why she turned off her phone. Quian said she lost it days earlier and couldn't contact him. Basho calculated the timing, it matched the day she supposedly messaged him to come to Black Muong village. Strangely, Quian denied sending the message, so who did? In the following days, Basho visited Quian daily to comfort her as she neared a breakdown. The night before her death, he was there, but left before dawn to avoid being seen by Miss Tai, who came to care for the children. If you don't believe me, check my phone. Quian's messages are still there. Basho sobbed. The provincial police chief made a call, and soon an officer brought an evidence bag containing Basho's keys, phone, and belongings. The phone indeed had a message from Quian, "I'm at Black Muong village, come meet me." Sent a day before Quian and Hong Kwang arrived, it was followed by Basho's unanswered texts asking where she was. After interrogating Basho, everyone returned to the meeting room and took their seats. Verification confirmed the number that texted Basho was Quian's old number. "Boss, do you trust intuition?" Kwang asked. "I do." The chief nodded. After years of investigations, intuition can be spot on. This time, Micah tells me Basho isn't the killer. A few details support this. First, Basho might have killed Hong Kwang out of jealousy, but he had no motive to kill Quian. I checked Quian's assets, they're intact, none transferred to Basho. If Quian lived, Basho had a long-term meal ticket, only benefits, no harm. The chief paused, then continued. Second, the hallucinogen in the well has a limited effect, wearing off in hours. Hong Kwang's symptoms were too dramatic. Even with a high dose, he should have recovered quickly at home. His prolonged coma is abnormal unless someone kept dosing him, which Basho had no time or opportunity to do. Third, if we shift suspicion to Quian, she had no motive either. Hong Kwang's family benefited from her wealth. Harshly put, they were like her pets, fed by her money and obeying her commands, a comfortable life. Also, think about it, Quian and Basho were sneaking around under Hong Kwang's nose. Could he not have known? His status and personality made him suppress it. Maintaining the status quo was best for Basho and Quian, they had no need to take risks. Fourth, as we saw, Basho's phone had a message seemingly from Quian. It was indeed her old number. This suggests Basho's trip to Black Muong village was likely orchestrated by the real killer to divert suspicion onto him. This analysis made sense, but then, who killed Hong Kwang and Quian? This person orchestrated a grand scheme, killing both and framing Basho. Silence fell again. Seconds ticking by, yet no one found a clue. After a long pause, Kwang looked up, eyes gleaming, hesitating before addressing the chief boss. What's with the eye? Speak up, we're listening, the chief urged. As if resolving himself, Kwang gritted his teeth and said, "Boss, I think your intuition is wrong this time." The team was taken aback. Rarely did a subordinate challenge a superior so directly, but the forensic investigator beside him was thrilled, knowing the chief wouldn't reprimand Kwang and that this boldness signaled a major breakthrough was near. Looking at the chief, Kwang, having spoken out, held nothing back and raised his voice. From Basho's statement, I noticed something. After Quian and Hong Kwang's first son was born, Quian quickly rekindled her affair with Basho, even moving Hong Kwang to the third floor to sleep separately. So, who is Turned Bao's father? This was a bombshell. Everyone had been so focused on the case, they hadn't considered such gossip. Kwang continued, I'd bet 8 or 9 out of 10 that Turned Bao's father is Basho. Even Turned Jaewi's father might be Basho. Though Quian had less contact with Basho early in her marriage, it's possible she got pregnant secretly. Thus, Basho had a motive. If Quian and Hong Kwang died, the children would legally inherit the estate. Even if Basho couldn't claim it immediately, he could later use his blood tie to the kids to seize Quian's wealth. Even if only Turned Bao is his, He could claim half the estate, far more than the millions Quian gave him. Test the DNA of the two children and Basho immediately. No one expected the most shocking truth was yet to come. Officers brought two DNA experts to the town. Kwang led them to a break room where Basho sat, eyes vacant. Kwang told Basho, "You're still a suspect, so stay put. These doctors are here to check your health and need a blood sample." Basho, unsuspecting, extended his arm for the sample. As the experts prepared to go to Mr. Kwai's house for the children's samples, Kwang stopped them, advising they use the pretext of a health inspection. He added that with recent deaths in Mr. Kwai's household, a virus couldn't be ruled out, so they should take blood samples from the entire family. The experts complied, successfully collecting samples from several people. One expert rushed back to the province for urgent testing, while the other stayed in town. Before night fell, a thrilling revelation arrived. The urgent DNA results showed Tung Jiaye was not related to Basho, but Tung Bao was indeed his son. Kwang's theory was correct. Basho had a motive to kill Hong Kwang and Quian. However, this was expected, and not the most shocking result. What truly stunned everyone was another finding. Since Hong Kwang was buried, his sample couldn't be taken, but the experts had Mr. Kwai's and his son's blood from the health inspection pretext. Testing their relation to Tung Jiaye would reveal if he was Hong Kwang's son. The result was jaw-dropping, nearly causing eyes to pop out. Jiaye had no blood relation to Mr. Kwai or his son. What was going on? Was there a fourth, secret person involved with Quian? The remaining DNA expert was given an even more critical task. That night, dressed in a police-provided black stealth outfit, essentially tight gym clothes for easy movement and concealment, he trembled, waiting until midnight. At midnight, several officers, also in black, gathered and headed to a chilling destination, the hillside cemetery. Yes, the mission was to dig up the grave for samples. Stealing the body might be an overstatement. The goal was to take a small sample from Hong Kwang's body for DNA testing, but it required excavating the entire grave. 5 men in black, under cover of night, dug up a fresh grave, opened the coffin, and took samples from a decomposing, grimacing body. Recalling the moment they lifted the coffin lid and shone a flashlight on Hong Kwang's pale face, everyone shuddered. Initially, they planned only to take a small sample, but the officers went further, removing Hong Kwang's body entirely for the forensic investigator to examine on site. In over a decade of work, they'd seen many bodies, but never in such a creepy setting. Without Kwang's calming presence, someone might have fainted. After taking the sample, the DNA expert was dizzy and unsteady. But Kwang, unfazed, stared intently at Hong Kwang's body while the forensic investigator took infrared photos and worked on something. By the time an officer drove the DNA expert back to the province, his legs were still shaking. Hours later, the urgent DNA results came. Tung Jiaye was related to Hong Kwang. In other words, Tung Jiaye was Hong Kwang's biological son. But the test between Hong Kwang and Mr. Kwai ruled out any relation. Hong Kwang was not Mr. Kwai's son. This result was shocking. Soon after, the case finally came to light. That same day, the police, armed with the results, arrested Mr. Kwai and his son. Based on the on-site autopsy and DNA tests, the truth was uncovered. Initially, Mr. Kwai and his son denied everything, but when presented with the evidence, they were stunned. The autopsy on Hong Kwang revealed he died 3 days ago. In other words, the earlier assumption that Hong Kwang died days before Quian was completely wrong. In fact, Hong Kwang and Quian died almost simultaneously, possibly with Hong Kwang dying after. During the coffin inspection, Hong Kwang's body was covered in anti-decomposition lime, with the lower half draped in a shroud, so only his face was visible, making it impossible to determine the exact time of death. Moreover, Hong Kwang's death wasn't from a curse or asphyxiation but from a single stab wound to the heart. During the inspection, Hong Kwang wore a thick shroud, hiding the wound. This proved Hong Kwang's death was part of a conspiracy. The root of it all was a hallucinogenic substance. This substance is hard for ordinary people to dose or obtain legally, but Keen, a medical university research student, had access. Keen's university lab confirmed a vial of a potent hallucinogen was missing. The case was so complex that only someone highly intelligent could orchestrate it so meticulously. Thus, the police suspected Keen, an outstanding medical research student, was the mastermind. Faced with undeniable evidence, Mr. Kwai and Keen's psychological defenses collapsed, and they confessed the truth. It turned out the entire case stemmed from Mr. Kwai and Keen's deep hatred for Kwain and their insatiable greed. Mr. Kwai's family lived in the countryside. Shortly after marrying, Hong Kwang was born. Though he never said it aloud, Mr. Kwai knew Hong Kwang wasn't his son. How could his wife give birth just 6 months after their wedding? But given his circumstances, marrying at all was fortunate, so he didn't dwell on it and raised Hong Kwang as his own until Keen was born years later. In appearance, Hong Kwang far surpassed Keen, but Mr. Kwai poured all his love into Keen, his true son. While other families had younger siblings where the elders hand-me-downs, in Mr. Kwai's house, Hong Kwang wore Keen's old clothes, which were often too short, exposing his limbs. In summer, it was fine, but in winter's cold, Hong Kwang shivered. Yet Hong Kwang never complained, brainwashed from childhood by his father's mantra that the elder must sacrifice for the younger. As he grew, Hong Kwang became the family's main laborer, working hard to fund Keen's education and his parents' expenses. With only a middle school education, he did manual labor, earning 2 to 3 million VN monthly. Years ago, two major events hit Mr. Kwai's family: his wife's death and Keen's admission to medical university. Keen's university costs soared, and Hong Kwang's income couldn't cover them. At that time, wealthy Turn Kwan sought a son-in-law to marry into his family. Mr. Kwai, trying his luck, was surprised when Turn Kwan chose Hong Kwang. Turn Kwan's condition that grandchildren bear the Turn surname was trivial to Mr. Kwai, as Hong Kwang's children weren't his blood anyway. After Hong Kwang married Kwain, Mr. Kwai was initially pleased. Kwain spent 20 million Vietnamese dongs building them a house, covered Keen's tuition and living expenses, and gave Mr. Kwai monthly allowances. Compared to their past poverty, life improved significantly. But human greed is boundless. Seeing Kwain's family of 3 in a grand villa with hundreds of millions in the bank, Mr. Kwai felt resentful. Why should a harsh woman like Kwain have everything while his family was at her mercy? Keen suffered even more. Each month, he had to beg Kwain for money, enduring her mockery. For a proud student like Keen, this was unbearable. Back home, Keen hid in his father's small room, cursing Kwain with him. He'd considered revenge but hadn't found the right opportunity, until one day, when Hong Kwang ran to his father and brother, revealing Kwain's affair with Bushu and her pregnancy with another man's child. Keen saw his golden opportunity. Keen questioned Hong Kwang closely about Kwain's infidelity. Hong Kwang, thinking his brother was consoling him, poured out his heart. Brainwashed from youth, Hong Kwang was submissive, evident in his willingness to be a live-in son-in-law without complaint despite his tall, handsome appearance. But even a gentleman has limits. Seeing Kwain treat his father and brother like dogs and openly cheat with Bushu, Hong Kwang, though outwardly compliant, seethed with hatred. This hatred peaked when Kwain became pregnant with Turn Bao. That year, Hong Kwang had little intimacy with Kwain, and the few times were perfunctory. He was certain Turn Bao wasn't his. After Turn Bao's birth, Kwain handed Turn Jia to his grandfather but doted on Turn Bao like a treasure, pushing Hong Kwang's resentment to its limit. Unable to bear it, he confided in his father and brother. Seeing his brother's pain, Keen feigned sympathy but was inwardly ecstatic, sensing his long-awaited chance had arrived. Thus, he devised a grand plan: murder and wealth seizure. First, he and his father brainwashed Hong Kwang, planting the idea that without Kwain, our family would be happy. Next, he chose the remote Black Muong village for the plan, fabricating ghost stories and spreading them through various channels. Knowing Quian's love for adventure, he was certain she'd investigate a mysterious Black Muong village in the northwest. Then, he stole a vial of potent hallucinogen from his university lab, intending to make Quian appear cursed so her death would seem natural and unsuspicious. Finally, he arranged for Basho to arrive at Black Muong village a day early to divert police suspicion toward him. The perfect person to kill Quian was Hong Kwang. Hong Kwang, under the pretext of protecting Quian, went with her to Black Muong village, slipping her the hallucinogen to induce a cursed state, while also acting out his own curse performance. Back home, Hong Kwang, with Keen and Mr. Kwai, faked his cursed death, burying an empty coffin while he hid. Days later, Hong Kwang, catching Quian off guard, strangled her, staging the scene to look like she too died from a curse. Both spouses visiting Black Muong village and dying from a curse seemed perfectly plausible. Keen convinced Hong Kwang that killing Quian would allow him to take the money, change his identity, and live happily. But in truth, Keen planned to kill Hong Kwang from the start, as only his death would perfect the plan and ensure the hundreds of millions fell into Keen's hands. Everything was set, and the murder and wealth seizure plan began. The day before Hong Kwang and Quian went to Black Muong village, Keen stole Quian's phone and texted Basho. When Basho replied he'd come, Keen tossed the phone into a river. Basho, unsuspecting, rushed to Black Muong village but found no one. The next day, Hong Kwang brought Quian to the village, and Basho, seeing the situation, slipped away. Here, Keen's first step succeeded. Step 2: using the hallucinogen. Per Keen's original plan, Hong Kwang would spike Quian's water with the hallucinogen, causing a cursed state, then fake his own cursed death, followed by Quian's. But an unexpected issue arose. Another group arrived at Black Muong village to explore. Quian, loving excitement, suggested joining them. This threw Hong Kwang into a panic, and he called Keen for advice. Keen calmly instructed him to adjust the plan. Hong Kwang had enough hallucinogen to dose the well, affecting everyone and masking the truth. With so many people, getting them to drink well water instead of stream water was tricky. But Keen, a medical research student, had a solution. On the second evening of camping, Keen told Hong Kwang to spike the well, while he sprinkled red dye upstream, turning the clear stream into blood water. Frightened by the stream, everyone used the well water, achieving Keen's goal. That night, the hallucinogen took effect, causing varying degrees of hallucinations. Hong Kwang added a performance, scratching his neck until it bled and screaming about ghosts. Already spooked by the blood water, the group stayed overnight, as descending the mountain at night was unsafe. That night, strange events unfolded, and unable to bear it, they fled in terror. Two explorers, unaware of the truth, brought the unconscious Hong Kwang and terrified Quian home, reinforcing the curse narrative. Keen was pleased. The plan proceeded smoothly. After Hong Kwang's fake death, he hid near the house, watching Quian's every move, waiting for his chance. Seeing Basho sneak to meet Quian so soon after his death, Hong Kwang was livid. As Basho left, Hong Kwang climbed through the open window, entered Quian's room, and strangled her on the spot. He then took her key, locked the room from the outside, and slipped away. After killing Quian, Hong Kwang returned to his father's house to hide. Per the original plan, he'd stay in the basement, supported by his father and brother, for a year and a half until the storm passed, then live freely. But pitifully, Hong Kwang didn't realize that to his father and brother, he was already a dead man. Only the dead keep secrets. The moment Hong Kwang entered the house, a sharp knife plunged into his chest. Hong Kwang stared at the brother he'd loved since childhood, dying with eyes wide open. After his death, Keen carried the body to the cemetery that night, placed it in the empty coffin, and covered it with lime. Thus, even if seen, the body's appearance wouldn't reveal the time of death. Keen repeatedly warned his father that if anyone wanted to inspect the coffin, it was fine, but an autopsy was forbidden, as it would expose the flaw. With such meticulous planning, Keen thought his scheme was flawless. But unfortunately, when Kwang suspected Chang Bao might not be Hong Kwang's son, the plan began to unravel. To uncover the truth, Hong Kwang's autopsy was necessary. To avoid unnecessary trouble, the midnight grave digging plan was executed, finally bringing this complex case to light. What's heartbreaking is that 3-year-old Turng Jie Wei and 6-month-old Turng Bao have no blood relation to Mr. Kwai or his son. Had they escaped justice, the children's future would be unimaginable. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. Subscribe to our channel to not miss the next thrilling story.